Hello and welcome back to my third devlog for my indie game Sandfire. It's been quite some time, but I now have a bit more free time to work on my project again, so I will cover in this video the creation of the player character, the animation process and much more. For the new character, I wanted to achieve a stylized look similar to the one in, for instance, Zelda Breath of the Wild. So I started the creation by making the base model first, and then I modeled the different body parts like the hands and the feet separately in order to join them to the main body later. For this model in particular, I tried to add additional geometry to the knees and elbows for an improved deformation when it comes to the animation process. For the head, I used a pre-made base model and sculpted it in a way to create a more stylized form, and then I retopologized the head and tried to form the geometry in a way that it benefits for a facial animation later. And moreover, I added some hair for the character as well. In the next step, I textured the created model by UV unwrapping my player in different parts, and then I used Blender's built-in material nodes and created a skin color, which I baked into a separate texture afterwards. My character has currently like 7 different materials, which is not the best approach and costs much performance, but for now it works and I think that is currently okay. Then I started to create the final part of my character, the rig or the armature system. I separated the different bones to different bone groups and created custom bone shapes in order to be able to classify the different bones and their functions. One of these functions, for instance, is the heel roll, which is very useful for the animation. For the hand, I used my old hand rig, which I made for one older Godot project. Then I started to add some cloth to the character, or more particular an armor. This piece is inspired by the armor of Goblin Slayer and this one artwork. And for the whole creation, I used the mirror modifier to save a lot of time, since it creates the other side automatically, and that helped me really a lot. I also decided to add a face rig and some color to the armor. The face rig works poorly at the moment, but the character doesn't require much facial expression for my purposes, so I think that is okay. The next step was to remake all animations for the new character, which took a lot of time. Since the animations were often criticized in the past, I decided to put much effort in my animations. I am open to criticism for my game, since that helps me a lot to improve it. However, I was having a really hard time on the animation side of things, because I was unsure if I'm even able to create convincing looking animations. Especially when I was searching for different references and seeing other people's animation reels. I use a lot of references for my animations, especially for the attack animations. The synth, for instance, was inspired by the burial blade from Bloodborne. And for each animation, I firstly make a rough animation block out with the key poses, and then I start to animate the in-betweens and add more and more detail to the animation during the process. And at the end, I think I've done a decent job with the animations. I think some of them may even be comparable to the different animation reels that I have seen, although I wouldn't consider myself as good as a professional. So I'm really happy how most of my animations turned out. You can now use 4 different weapon types: a normal sword, a double sword, a synth, and of course the great sword. I animated for each weapon an attack combo consisting of 3 hits, and among these weapons I also planned to add a knife, but I decided to remove it since it was too short in my opinion. Next to them, I also animated the different animations for the walk and the idle states, and I also changed some animations entirely, like the jump animation. For the jump animation, or the loop, for example, I animated it with the noise, so that saved me a lot of time to add some noise to certain bones, and it also gives some decent results if you want to try it out yourself. Then in Godot, I implemented the new attack states to my combat system and the animation tree with the animations. Since I used timer nodes, it was pretty easy to implement the different weapons to the character, and it gives me the possibility to add as many weapons and attacks as I would like to. I also added the functionality that the character is able to sprint with a weapon equipped, since that was requested with the demo. During the process, I noticed that the animations in Godot look a bit different compared to Blender, since they looked really dull at the beginning. Due to that, I needed to import and export my model quite often for testing and polishing purposes, but I think the end result looks decent for the Godot engine. And moreover, the player can change the weapon at runtime by loading the appropriate mesh when spawning the weapon. I also made some tests for a proper sword trail by using the trail add-on for Godot, and I can really recommend this add-on if you also want to create a sword trail or similar stuff. The mask and the glove, which you probably know from my last player model, is also available for the new player. I tested a new toon shader made by Captain Proton42 on them, and I think the result looks awesome, and I will replace my previous toon shader for it. And for the cloak especially, I used the built-in soft body node from Godot, and I added a vertex shader to it to simulate a wind effect. In the last couple of days, I also started to work on the flying ability, which is at the very beginning currently. But if you are interested on how these wings were achieved, I made a tutorial about them. And in the end, the ability should look or work like the one in Jack 3. But I'm still a bit worried whether I'm capable to achieve something like this or not. Moreover, there happened some environmental changes. There is much more grass and a more green color in general. I also added some leaves to the trees, but I think I will not keep them since I'm not sure if they fit to the current style. There are more rocks as well, and they all have a collision now, unlike before. I also added more details to the bridge, since all the detail were missing in the demo. The reason for this was a lack of time, and after I combined the two large scenes together. Moreover, I added a LOD for the bridge, which is the first LOD for my game. And I also fixed some errors with the collision inside the tower. I started to organize things a bit more by making a list on what to do next, and I also write down my new ideas for my little game there. And I also note much of the feedback that I received there, and so that I have everything on one place. And that is basically everything that happened the last weeks, and I still keep working on Sandfire. For the next weeks I plan to improve the main menu and add a pause menu, and therefore you can expect a big UI update for the next devlog. So that's everything for now. I hope you liked this little devlog, and thank you very much for watching, and take care. Goodbye.